right, everybody, welcome again. This is our second podcast brought to you by Investor Thrive. If you don't know what it is, check it out, investorthrive.com. It's a business that's helping wholesalers succeed in their personal lives and in their business. So check it out. That's what this podcast is brought to you by them. So today, kind of wanted to chat about with my business partner Corey Roysum. Today, we wanted to talk about our second half of the first year that we were going over.
Last episode we kind of ended off with where we were at the first half of the first year.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to pick up. Right before Christmas time. That's where we left off, and this one we'll pick up and kind of share what happened the rest of the year of our first year in business, and if we have time we'll go into the second year.
Yeah, and again, guys, if you're tuning in for the first time, the reason why we're doing this is just kind of show you guys like our trajectory or like how we've gone through business and navigated it. Right now, we've been in business for about 3 years. We're not the greatest wholesalers or the greatest business of all time, but it's taken some time to get to where we are, and we've made a ton of mistakes. And the purpose of us showing you guys what we've done is hopefully you can learn from what we've done.
Yeah. We want to show you guys our journey so you can, learn from what we did wrong and apply what we did right.
Yeah, so last time we ended by talking about Barbara, who was like one of the deals we did at the end of the year in Christmas time, where she was a hoarder and we moved her, and it was a nightmare. It was horrible. Like, don't ever do that.
Worst decision we made.
Dude, I remember
business was moving her.
I was moving her son's bed, her like 4-year-old son, and it had like straight just pee. I don't know if it was pee or sweat stains like ingrained in the bed. It was so bad, and I was moving it.
Yeah, I wasn't touching that.
He wasn't touching it, so I had to touch it, and it had like little rat pellets of turds on it. It was horrible, dude.
Nasty.
It was nasty. Don't ever move anyone.
Yeah.
Go back and reference the first one. It was a bad experience. So anyway, after that happened, we also kind of glossed over this in the last one, but we want to talk about it more. We hired a cold calling team. Like, after we got some money and some deals closed, we're like,
I think like November sometime, I think is when we hired them. Yeah,
so we hired this cold calling team, and it was our buddy Steve Jordan from college, super good friend of ours, and this guy named Blake, and that went to college with us as well. And we also had some people that would come in occasionally and call for commission.
They wanted to like learn how to do it, learn about wholesaling, kind of get their feet wet.
Yeah, and we had gotten a couple deals from cold calling, so we were like, let's scale this out. Let's get some more cold callers.
Yeah.
And we got them all in the Mojo dialer. We had them meet at the broker's office we were working at, and they'd call for 4 hours a day. And it was brutal for these guys. Like, they couldn't handle it. They were calling, and they were getting yelled at, and it was, it was hard for them. But they did it. We paid them $15 an hour.
Yeah, I don't know how we afforded that.
We were generous because we believed that it was like, hey, the better quality of callers, like the more better deals we'll get, right? And
just a tip, guys: don't ever pay anybody $15 an hour to cold call.
No,
it's a simple numbers game. It doesn't really matter.
They can be we've tried many cold callings.
We've tried
Filipinos, Egyptians, Mexicans,
U.S. people.
It's all kind of the same.
It's all a numbers game. So
honestly, the foreign people probably can handle the longevity, like how long they have to work, better than the Americans can, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you pay $5 an hour for, a foreign person, or you outsource it overseas, you can get 3 times the amount of calling done as you do one person for $15 an hour.
Yeah, and it's. In all reality, they're just saying, hey, do you want to sell? That's pretty much all they can get done.
Yeah,
but anyway,
basically finding people.
Yeah. So one thing that was kind of funny is Blake, one of our cold callers that we hired, he was from Canada, and he didn't have like a place to live. He had just gotten he was transitioning. So we wanted to hire him because he was smart kid. So I went to my wife and I was like, hey, babe, like Blake needs a place to live. Can he live in our house? He's going to cold call for me. And he's going to pay a little bit of rent, but I'm paying him anyway, so it's like guaranteed rent. And she was not feeling it, but I convinced her because I really wanted to grow the business and, build our team. But I don't know how she agreed to it because our bedroom is in our house. We don't have a big house, but our bedroom's right here. And he lived in the room right across from our bedroom. And it was just a terrible idea.
Shared the fridge, shared everything, right?
No, I gave him a separate fridge in the garage. It was like one of those mini fridges.
Oh, gotcha.
But he would always put his stuff in my fridge. I'd be like, bro, I got you your own fridge. Don't put your stuff in our fridge. He's like, oh, sorry. And it's like, no, he knew what he was doing.
He ain't trying to walk out to the garage to get his eggs.
So that was a pretty funny experience we had him. So the reason why I bring up the cold calling team is things kind of died down after, we did the barber deal. We didn't get a lot of deals after Christmas.
After Christmas, we took a break for Christmas.
Took a break from
full
Christmas.
2-week break.
Right. And after that, we went like 2 or 3 months.
We had Mo in January.
Oh my gosh, dude. I forgot
So we'll
about
get into Mo probably a little later.
That's a
crazy story. So we'll get into Mo at kind of the end of the podcast.
Yeah, but just to let you know, cold calling, like we did get Mo's deal from cold calling, and I think that's the one that you cold called or I cold called or something.
I don't remember. I just remember we went over there so many times.
Yeah, that was from like previous in the year. But anyway, so the cold calling thing after hiring our guys, like we weren't producing a lot of leads or deals at that point. So
yeah, I don't think either of them got any deals.
Yeah.
That's another reason, like, they got you to get deals from cold calling. You got to put in the time and
a lot of effort, right? A lot of number. It's a totally numbers game. So they were calling for 4 hours a day. It wasn't really translating. So we kind of crushed that. We left his friends and said, "Hey guys, it's not making sense. It's not working." And the office we were working at that time with the broker, we had actually decided to partner with him a little bit earlier because we thought it'd be a good idea. And things just didn't work out with him either. Cool guy, but it just. He had his brokerage. He had other things he was focusing on. We didn't feel...
we just felt like a partnership really didn't make sense because of the amount of effort we were putting in versus what we perceived and felt he was putting in. Just didn't... Yeah. It didn't click well with us. So
partnerships are tough. It's a lot about what you feel is fair, and that's just sometimes it doesn't matter.
It's subjective to each person. So
exactly. So me and Corey, since the good thing about our partnership is worked out because we both trust each other and we both feel if he's not working, who cares? He puts in a lot of work, I put in a lot of work. But to bring in that third partner, it just didn't make work. It didn't. Yeah. So we decided to leave that office after the cold calling didn't work. And I remember I talked to him. I said, "Hey man, it's just not it doesn't make sense." And he's like, "Hey, you guys are," and he tried to convince us to stay. Because we had actually got him Lee's deal and a couple other deals. So he was making... We
got him some serious cash.
We got him some sick deals.
For not much effort on his part.
So he probably saw us leaving as oh crap, this is a big opportunity I'm losing. So he tried to convince us, but we were like, look man, we don't feel like you're doing the effort. And he's like, and I remember him saying but my experience is here to help you. That's what I could provide. And I remember I was like, well, we hired the cold callers. Why didn't you tell us to not pay that much? Obviously we were overpaying for cold callers. He's like, I needed you to learn. He's like, I needed you guys to learn from your mistakes. And I'm like, then what was the point of your experience if you just were gonna have us overpay and it not work out? So anyway, things kind of ended, I would say kind of rough because I don't think he wanted us to go, but we just up and left because we didn't feel like it was a good idea to partner and give away, 30%.
I think we told him we'd give him an answer on Monday.
We just did.
And Friday, we took all our stuff. Yeah. He left early, and Friday we took all our stuff and just left.
And then we met him Monday, and he looked like he had a rough weekend.
We met him Monday, looked like he hadn't slept all weekend.
And we're like, hey, sorry man, it's not gonna work. And he was
I think it worked out for him. I think now he does his own wholesaling. I think they do well.
Yeah.
He's still got his brokerage. He's got a big team now.
I'm sure he's doing better than we are.
Yeah, I'm sure he's doing really well. So might have been a good thing for
man.
both of us.
I mean, honestly, to involve partners, it's tough. You guys have to all have the same vision, all be cool with each other, trust each other.
All add value in different ways.
All add value. And when you feel hey, this guy's not doing enough, that's when it starts getting rocky. So you have to be on the same page and be like, hey, if I take
clear expectations need to be set.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, so anyway, we ended up leaving the office with him, and we reached out to another guy named Andrew that we networked with, some guy that was a buyer. And we're like, hey, man, can we go work in your office? Because we had just left the other one. He's like, yeah, sure. I got a big office and I'm not using it. So he let us work in there, and we were like, hey man, at this point we were kind of low on cash, right? We were actually really low on cash.
Spent our money paying the cold callers,
paying
trying
ourselves.
marketing, paying ourselves.
So we said to him, like, hey, Andrew, do you think you could give us $2,000 and we'll pay you back your $2,000 and we'll try and get you listings.
We'll try to bring you deals.
Yeah, we'll try to bring you. He was an agent, so we're like, we can get you listings and we'll pay you back. And he was like, okay. He had a lot of money. He probably thought $2,000 was nothing. So
he was loaded.
And for us, it was a lot. And then we spent that $2,000, I think, on mailers.
No, we spent it on flyers.
On flyers?
We hand delivered ourselves.
Yeah, so we stopped paying for the people to flyer because it was a lot to manage. Like, they'd go out.
There's so much turnover. Like, people were just quitting left and right. So we were always having to find new people, and it's just...
So we started flyering. Yeah. So we'd go out to West Valley or like someplace, on the the ghetto area, Salt Lake, and we'd flyer, and people, it sucked, dude. We'd walk for like an hour or two.
Yeah, we'd put out probably like 100 flyers an hour or so.
Not even. I think it was like 50 flyers an hour.
No, because you think about it, one door a minute, you can do more than one a minute.
I wasn't.
I think we averaged like one or two a minute.
Yeah.
Anyways, we weren't putting out enough for it to make a dent.
Yeah, like at that point we were just like, dude, with just me and you flyering for 2 hours a day, we ain't getting a deal. This is not going to work.
Not even close.
Yeah, so
then I think after we kind of decided like, hey, this flyering stuff ain't going to work, Andrew had closed his office.
Right.
Went to a smaller office where there wasn't really room for us, which was fine. So we just started working out of our homes again.
Yeah, so we'd rotate every week.
Rotate back and forth.
Once a week.
And then at that point, we started getting heavy into texting.
Right.
We're like, we need to get leads somehow. And, the cheapest and simplest way was texting. So we got big into texting.
Yeah, texting was huge.
And, it made us the majority of our money like the end of the first year and the beginning of the second year. That made us like most of our money.
Yeah, so texting was huge, and at this time, we had learned from like some of the training, like Alex Youngblood and all those other people, like VAs. We had never done VAs until this point, but we're like, let's get some VAs. So we hired 2 VAs. Remember, it was Prince and Brian.
So Brian was cold calling for us.
Yeah.
Which he actually got a deal from cold calling.
He did, yeah.
And then Prince started out cold calling, right? Mm-hmm. And then we kind of stopped cold calling and
went into
texting full time.
And I think we fired Brian because like we found out that he would he was gaming the whole time, and he would call people on the Mojo dialer, and the Mojo dialer has like a pause sometimes, so he'd be like, they'd answer and it'd be like that little pause, and they'd be like, hello, and he'd just go right, and he wouldn't even like. He just blasted the pitch. He'd be like, do you want to sell your house? And they'd be like, what? And he'd hang up.
I think also after you hang up, you have 8 minutes to dispo the call.
Yeah.
To like choose whether you talk to him, whether it was a bad number. So you got 8 minutes before it'll kick you off the dialer. I think he used all 8 minutes every single call. So
just sitting there. And these guys are from the Philippines, by the way. These are VAs we got from the Philippines. And they were cool. But every time we called Brian, he'd have his shirt off. Like he'd be sweating. Like it must have been hot in the Philippines when he was calling, dude. So
apparently he did pretty well and didn't really need the money.
He didn't really need the money. He was apparently from like Filipino royalty, and he like got inherited a bunch of apartment complexes. So he was just having fun, doing it for fun, I guess.
Doing his thing, yeah.
So we got Prince, and Prince is cool. We're still friends with Prince, and he started doing like everything we needed: texting, cold calling. We'd have him like do a hybrid of all that. So at that point, like with Brian, he brought us one deal, and then Prince, we still weren't producing a lot of deals, right? So we're like, we're not, and we realized it's like,
and we really struggled to sell them.
Yeah, our buyers list was trash.
We still could not sell deals very well. Like we'd get 1 or 2 people interested that we knew, and then we struggled to sell them. So at that point, we cold called, we got a deal. It wasn't a deal right away, so it like a couple months had passed, and then it turned into a deal from his cold calling.
Mm-hmm.
But then we started texting. I started out texting first. I got a couple deals, and then we're like, all right, let's have a VA do it.
Right.
And so then we had the VA start doing it. But that first deal we got, I think was first one that closed. I think was like JJ, wasn't it?
Yeah. So real quick before you go into that, like I wanted to say, like we were running low on funds, right? So we took like a huge leap of faith at this time. We started getting some personal credit cards, and
zero interest
personal credit cards like Capital One, and you got some, and we got $30,000 on there, and we had like, this is like, we've never been in debt. I had never been in debt at that point,
neither.
But we went all in. So we started paying for lists, texting, and we went with Google AdWords nerds, right?
Yeah, they're a PPC provider.
And we had them run campaigns for pay-per-click in Utah, just specifically Utah. And they produced, a couple deals for us, which it was expensive. It was like 20.
Yeah, I think we spent like 30 and made like 70K.
So
a little over 2x our money.
Yeah, and I remember
that was over a 6-month period of time.
Right, but that's when we got that credit card though. We took that leap. So just let you guys know, sometimes it's going to take a leap. Like honestly, like to get consistent deals in this business, you either need to go into debt.
I mean, to scale up your business, you gotta get more leads. So and that usually costs money. So you gotta keep taking those leaps, increasing your marketing budget to move the needle forward.
Yeah, so like when we started the business, we started with $0. We were just like, hey, we don't want to put money. We'll get a deal and we'll use that deal to fund it. So what it's looked like has been like freaking, you make some money, you pay yourself, you pay for the marketing, it goes down like a roller coaster. And that's how it has been for a while, like until recent, it's been last year. Like we've been in this for like 3 years. The first like 2 years, it's been up and down, and it's mainly because of the lead flow.
Yeah, lead flow is huge.
It's giant. So
it's the most important part of the business, hands down.
Oh gosh. So real quick, so we got their credit card, we got AdWords Nerds, and we got JJ, which was a fat deal.
JJ was from texting.
From texting, yeah. And I remember you while we were driving, flying, you were texting him, and I was like, "What you doing?" And he's like, "I think I got a deal." So what happened is we teamed up with a big wholesaler at the time. His name is Martineau, and I think it's Utah House Buyers.
Yeah.
And these guys were willing to JV, joint venture, and help you sell your deals through their buyers list. And these guys saved our lives. Like we had, our buyers list was like 100 people. I don't know what was wrong with us, how we couldn't find more buyers at this time. I think we tried to.
I don't think we knew, and we spent so much time and effort trying to find deals. It just wasn't a priority
to get
getting buyers.
Which is like one of the most important things to selling your deal is having a great buyers list, which we're great at now. We can find buyers for anything.
Yeah.
But we started now because we had Martineau in his great list. We started to sell a lot. We're like, hey, we figured it out. We needed a great buyers list. We weren't terrible at getting deals. We just couldn't sell them.
Yeah.
So he would take 30% or a certain split if he brought a buyer.
30.
Yeah, it was like 70-30. And if he could bring a buyer. So he started blasting out. So we got a deal from texting. It was like a $46,000 deal. He took, 30%. So that one was huge, and that paid off our credit card debt of $30K, and we were just ecstatic. Then we started getting some more. We got one from cold calling which was Zach. Another one from texting, which
was like a $10K deal.
And then Joanna was a $12K deal. And again, these would be bigger. These would be bigger, right? If we weren't having someone help us JV, but they were like a crutch for us. Like we're like, oh, dude, they dispo it.
It really was nice at the time because we were just trying to get deals and find good deals, and it was nice not to have to worry about it. And they just did so good at it. Like they would just basically take it over from us and just go sell it.
And realizing now what we know now, it's not that hard.
No.
If you have a good deal, you can sell it.
If you have a good deal and good buyers, you can sell it pretty easy.
So we got some more deals like Troy in Rose Park. That was from cold calling. So it was mainly texting, cold calling, and PPC that was getting us our leads at that time. And
typically with cold calling, it takes a little while. So you get the lead, and then it takes like a couple months for some reason for it to pan out. It's been with all of our cold calling leads.
Yeah, cold calling is a longer.
So these ended up closing later. It's just a longer deal cycle.
So cold calling is a longer song and dance, right? It takes time. So texting can be quick. PPC is usually the quickest.
Yeah.
So we kind of gone over like that kind of second half of the.
So that's kind of the second half of the first year.
But we want to talk about Mo.
So yeah, let's talk about Mo. So I think we ended up doing the deal right after Christmas, right?
But we had been working with him.
We'd been working with him for months.
For months, yeah. So this is what happened with Mo. This is a crazy situation. So we were dealing with this guy who was in pre-foreclosure. He was behind on his payments by like 12 months or like 8 months or something like that. And he was, I don't know if they had they didn't have an auction date yet, did they?
I don't think so.
So he had the opportunity to like reinstate his loan if he like came up with a certain amount of money, or if he like came in, but he didn't. He was like, I don't want to do that. He told us, he's like, hey, I don't want to reinstate it. I don't want to like make these payments. I want to move out of here. The house is too small. So we would be like, okay, if we can do this, are you ready to go? And he'd be like, come back tomorrow. So we like went back like 3 or 4 times, and eventually we were just like, hey, like we can't keep coming back here. Like either want to work with us or not. Like if you don't, that's fine. And we basically, he didn't like the offer at the time. It was like too low and everybody else was coming too low. So I said, look, hey, we can do a seller finance deal where we can, pay you more with a balloon payment because you want more money, and we can make you, a small upfront payment right now so you can move out, and, we'll pay you a larger sum in the future. So he was cool with that, right?
Yeah.
And so he signed. We got him to sign. And he also, because he was older, he was just like, look, give me a couple months to move out after I get, after we close and you give me the money up front. So we give him like $5,000 up front. And he's like, give me a couple months to move because it was winter. So we're like, okay. So I think we gave him till it closed in January. We gave him until like the end of, was it April or?
I don't even remember, to be honest.
We gave him like 3 or 4 months to move out, right? So I ended up buying the deal because we couldn't find a buyer for it. Again, our buyers list, this is before the Martineau thing. This is before we had the JV deal. So this is, I ended up buying it and let the guy stay in there. By the way, never do a seller finance deal and let them have post-possession of the property. Like just never do that, because their technically can still be on title, and then you're gonna have major issues, if you let them live in it after you close. So make sure that you have a lease or something in place. I just let the guy live in it, right? So
you probably want to sign a lease back.
Yeah, or not. Don't let him stay in there after you buy on a seller finance. Just don't do that.
If you can avoid it.
But
I think the lease back would cover most of that issue, like showing that they're supposed to be paying rent, showing that they're a tenant, not a owner.
Yeah. So what happened is this one's freaking crazy. So at the end of like the time that he was supposed to move out, I went there and like nothing was packed. Like he was not ready to go. And I think he had like his daughter living in a trailer in the back. Bunch of people living there. And they're like,
small 600 square foot house too. Like
so small.
2 beds, 1 bath, 600 square feet, tiny.
Yeah, and they didn't want to move out. When I went there, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like let's get this going. Like, I gave you the time. I've given you the money up front. I've already purchased the home and closed on it. And then his family came out to battle. They came out to me. They're like, we're not going anywhere. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, Mo, didn't you tell them like what we agreed on? And he's just like, and they're like, you took advantage of our dad. He didn't want to do any of this. And I was like, yo, you signed, he signed, his wife signed, like everyone was on board, but now they got to get out. Now you guys got problems. So
poor Mo was just sitting back there not saying a word too, because he knew that.
But he had his family leeching off him. His 50 or 40-year-old daughter just living in a trailer in the backyard, just leeching. And, so what happened is they weren't going to get out. And I wasn't going to go there and do anything about it. Like, I'm not trying to get stabbed. So we ended up getting an eviction attorney to go and evict them.
James Dean, right?
James Dean. The guy was the man.
Yeah.
So James Dean had a lot of experience with eviction. So he ends up filing the paperwork, and we have to go to court because they fight it. And we go to court, and I was shook. I was never been gone to court.
I was nervous for him.
So nervous. So we went to court twice, and he stood up in front of the court and was like, I don't know what their argument was. Like, hey, we didn't sell the house.
He had some like mortgage lender on his team, right? Trying to push this forward.
Yeah.
Trying to help him out or something.
Somebody was like, "Hey, these guys don't own it. They're not entitled." And it's like, "No, we actually closed on the property." And they were fighting it because they were like, "Hey, we don't want to move." So eventually, after the second day in court, and again, I'm nervous because I've never been through this. The second day in court, the judge is just like, "Hey, if you want to fight this, you're gonna have to. This might take like 6 months to a year. So if you're gonna fight it, you're gonna have to come up with the rent that I would lose, on this property for the amount of time that this will, go through court. So if it takes 6 months, or they said a year, so it's like, hey,
so Mo would have to pay that rent.
Yeah, so he's like, hey, if this is gonna go, if you guys want to fight this, you're gonna have to come up with, let's say rent's $1,000, you're gonna have to come up with like $1,200 times X, like, so they had to come up with like $7,000 if they wanted to fight it, and they were like, nah, let's not fight it. So they eventually, I won, and I got the property, and they moved out, and now I'm renting it, but it was just a disaster, dude.
Fiasco.
But
it's crazy.
Yeah, so crazy. So again, we were new to seller finance at that time, creative financing, and so my recommendation from that is just to avoid problems. If you're going to buy someone's property, just make sure on a seller finance or creative finance deal where they're still on title, that make sure they're out of it, because you're going to have some problems if they try to fight it. Hopefully you'll win, but there could be some issues. I wish the title guy that helped us through the transaction would have let me know that was probably not the best idea to let the guy stay in it, but you live and you learn.
Yeah.
And by the way,
sometimes you need that to get the deal done, and in the end, it was worth it, right? Because you got it at
just a lot of
150,
headache.
And now it's worth 270.
Yeah.
So like you have 120K in equity.
Yeah.
It's worth a little fight.
I guess the headache, but just to let you guys know, post possessions, I'd say 90% of the people we let them stay in after, and they have like a certain amount of time to move out. They usually don't move out at that time. So be prepared.
Usually they don't go to court either.
They don't usually go to court, but they usually don't get out when they say they will.
They're usually slow getting out, but they usually also don't go to court. So it's just a matter of being patient. Just try not to think about it that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just
be mentally prepared.
Forward. Yeah,
be mentally prepared.
Be prepared. Don't get too emotionally involved or drained in it. Just let the lawyers do the job. Let the courts do the work, and just do everything right, and then you won't have to worry about it.
I just want to let you guys know that like when I first got served those papers or knew I was going to court, I was like in the shower like shaking because I was like never been sued or whatever, gone to court. I was so nervous. Now through 3 years of this, I'm like unshakable. Like we've had to go, we'll tell you guys about this other experience, but we had to go kick a squatter out, and the police showed up, and the squatter wasn't like willing to leave the house. He was standing in the doorway, and it was crazy. People were like yelling, and like I wasn't nervous one bit because of things that I've been through.
I'd been threatened to be sued in college for a lease option I did, and most of it's just bluffing. But honestly, just the courts and the lawyers, let them do the work. Don't stress about it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it.
Just know if you get served any papers or an attorney.
We're in a lawsuit right now, kind of.
Yeah, they're threatening us when we had the rights to buy a house.
And it's like there's no reason to stress about it.
That's the way of life.
Do the work.
I think I saw like one of our mentors said like if you haven't been sued yet, you're not really in real estate.
Yeah.
Like it's just gonna happen. Like people. Even if you're in the right, which
people make decisions and then they regret them, and then they try to back out of them, and
it's just how it is. That's the business we're in. Anyway, like we'll probably end right now, and just that's kind of like was the first year.
Yeah.
And
so next episode we'll get into the second year. We'll go over a little bit more, how we continue to grow, some of the deals we got towards the end of that year, and we'll try to cover the full second year next time.
Real quick for you guys. So let's do a recap on like what wholesalers, real estate investors can learn from this. So first, real quick, let's recap how we're getting these deals. We got them from texting, cold calling, and pay-per-click, like online ads. So those are good lead sources. Even though they're cracking down on texting and cold texting mainly, it's still a good lead source. We did a deal from texting a couple of months ago and did 27K on it, which is good.
We don't do a lot of texting anymore, but yeah, I mean, you can still get deals from it.
Again, you can get deals on anything if you do enough.
If you're consistent. So
cold calling works too. So that's how we got most of the deals the second part of half of the year. Let's recap. Like, if you're going to do creative financing,
I think one thing to recap on is without lead gen, you don't have a business. Like, if you don't have leads coming in to work and call, you don't have a business. Like, when we wouldn't have leads, we would be sitting around twiddling our thumbs, or we'd go out and try to, flyer, and that's just not the way. You need lots of leads in this business to close deals. So
I think like if you're gonna like watch our trajectory of like how we did business, you're gonna see the reason why we weren't that successful is because our lead flow was not high. But we didn't really realize that or think of that until later. But that's the main reason. We didn't have a lot of leads.
Yep. And then so obviously another takeaway is seller finance. Make sure you set it up right. Otherwise,
you could be.
I mean, even if he set it up right with like a lease back, he still could get sued, but he would have just been in an even stronger position going to court.
Yeah, mainly I was in a good position. I just was scared because it's my first time.
Yeah, I mean, no, we did it right, so there was nothing to be nervous about.
Oh yeah, last thing we'll say about that. So when we were in court, the daughter stood up and was like, "This man threatened my dad and made him sign, and also he told us to get back in the house when we went out to talk to him." He said
blatant lies, by the way.
Blatant lies, and they were all recorded by the who's the person that writes stuff down to the court, like whatever the writer or whatever. There's someone that types
clerk or whatever.
Yeah, the clerk. So she had written all this stuff down, and then I had read it later, and I was just laughing because it was such a lie. She's like, he told us to get the bump in the house, and it was like, no, I didn't. Like, you're just lying. But anyway, it was just funny to sit there and just have her lie, and I was just like sitting there.
It's pretty unfortunate because we liked Mo a lot.
Oh, he was a great guy.
We would go chat with him. He would show us like his cool cars that he was building. Like, he took us to his shop one time, showed us around.
Yo, Mo's great.
The cars, like the classic cars, he was like fixing up and I guess renovating.
Yeah, I think he's great. No hard, obviously I wish him the best. I think the problem was his family that was leeching off him.
It was in a tough spot.
Didn't want the place where they were, living, they weren't paying any rent. They weren't helping at all. If they would have just gotten jobs, they could have kept the house and been fine, right? But he was the only one working, so he was in a tough spot. We were able to buy the house and help him get out of it.
Already too.
So, I mean, it was crazy. And I remember when she was yelling at me, I was just clenching my fists like, she's a liar. She's a liar. But you can't say that. So, hey, man, this job, it's awesome. Like, with the journey we've been on, we got some crazy stories coming up about the squatter that we had to kick out. It's wild. But
yeah, stay tuned for the second year coming up next week.
Yep. And other than that, guys, freaking thanks for tuning in. Check out investorthrive.com. We focus on helping wholesalers improve in their personal lives and in their businesses. Because real quick, a lot of this business is not just being good at leads and negotiating, but it's like being mentally, physically, good yourself. You want to be in a position where you can capitalize and be the best self you can be. People can feel over the phone, and when you negotiate, when you just meet people, it's like you got your ish together. So that's kind of.
If you have any questions, reach out to me on social media.
Yeah.
Love to help. Love to help you guys on your wholesaling journey as well.
Let's get it. All right. Have a good one.
See you guys.